Sweden used to be one of the safest countries in Europe. Now it's got dozens of no-go zones where police won't go without backup. Gang shootings are routine and Sharia courts are quite run family law for Muslim communities. In 2026, Sweden's Deputy Prime Minister Ebba Busch had to publicly say Sharia law has no place in Sweden because parallel societies are taking over. And here's the scary part: the same thing is happening right here in the UK, with Sharia councils handling thousands of cases every year. Multiculturalism didn't create harmony, it created parallel legal systems that undermine British law. Let's break down what's happening in Sweden, how Sharia courts operate in the UK, and why this is a nationalist warning we can't ignore. Today, we're looking at how Sweden has turned parts of its cities into no-go zones with Sharia courts running parallel justice, and how the same model is already operating in Britain. We'll examine the crime stats, the vulnerable areas, how Sharia councils work here, and why nationalists have a right to demand stronger borders and more failed multiculturalism. Sweden went from one of Europe's safest countries to having dozens of vulnerable areas where crime, gang violence and parallel rules dominate. Swedish police officially classify around 60 areas as particularly vulnerable or risk areas. Places like Rosengård and Malmö, Brinkeby and Minsters in Stockholm, and parts of Gothenburg. In these zones, emergency services often need police escorts. Cars are banned regularly, and Sharia patrols pressure women over clothing. The numbers are brutal. Sweden had 149 bombings last year alone, many linked to gang networks in immigrant-heavy suburbs. Gang shootings and explosions have skyrocketed. Deputy Prime Minister Ebba Busch recently stated publicly that Sharia law has no place in Sweden and that everyone must integrate and follow Swedish law. But the reality on the ground shows parallel societies forming. Butchers only sell halal, mixed hairdressers disappear in some areas, and women face pressure to conform to Islamic rules. This isn't integration, it's colonization by stealth. The failure stated with mass immigration without any demand for assimilation. Sweden's experiment with open borders created exactly what nationalists warned about, areas where Swedish law is secondary. In Sweden, Sharia courts operate unofficially but effectively in no-go zones. They handle family matters, marriage, divorce, inheritance, child custody according to Islamic law. Women often get pressured into accepting unfair rulings, and non-compliance can mean social ostracism or worse. Swedish authorities have admitted these parallel systems exist, but political correctness stops them from cracking down hard. I'm looking at you, Barber Spectre. The same thing is happening right here in the UK. There are around 30 to 85 Sharia councils operating across Britain, mainly in places like Birmingham, Dewsbury and London. They are not official courts, but they function as voluntary arbitration bodies under 1996 Arbitration Act for civil disputes. They deal with thousands of cases a year, mostly Islamic divorces, talaq, inheritance and family conflicts. Rulings are non-binding under UK law, but in practice many Muslim communities treat them as authoritative. Women frequently get worse outcomes: unequal divorce rights, pressure to stay in abusive marriages, and unfair inheritance shares. Baroness Cox has repeatedly tried to introduce bills to regulate or limit these councils, but because they create a de facto parallel legal system, they discriminate against women and undermine British equality laws. This isn't just crime statistics, it's a slow replacement of British and Swedish law and culture. No-go zones and Sharia councils prove multiculturalism doesn't create harmony, it creates competing systems. In Sweden, areas like that were once are now effectively governed by clan rules and Islamic norms. In the UK, Sharia councils let communities opt out of British law for family matters, creating mini caliphates inside our country. Nationalists have warned about this for decades. Mass immigration without assimilation leads to parallel societies. Nationalists have a right to push for strong borders, ending indefinite leave to remain, and demanding full integration, or even deportation or remigration. The bleeding heart response, more diversity, more tolerance, has failed spectacularly, with many people nowadays having a more anti-immigration sentiment, including people like even my own family, and also people I talk to every day. Seems like they just want immigration more controlled, and also to do with even maybe something like with mass deportations, or something that I think would pair to be more better would be remigration. The solution is simple: stop the inflow, enforce British law everywhere, and make clear that Sharia has no place here. Anything less is surrender. Sweden's no-go zones started exactly like this. They're now followed by parallel systems. The UK is on the same path unless we wake up. Trade councils in Britain are the thin end of the wedge. Today, family law, tomorrow more. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about how Sharia courts work in the UK, or at least how they work as well within Sweden. And also to do with how Islam creates parallel societies, and as well, I guess, to do with all of the issues that come from, I guess, having their own court systems, and also to do with like the hairdressers, because even within my own area, I've noticed that there has been a lot of, I guess, hairdressers been around, and obviously, clearly used for money laundering. And I just keep thinking, well, my area hasn't been like fully balkanized yet, or I guess to even a small village. Even with then they even create their own parallel societies, and obviously, if they're doing like drug dealing or anything, I think that there needs to be sort of like a knock on the head from that. And I know with Sweden there's been a lot of issues, especially because I remember there was this this little girl from Sweden who was actually, I think it was Germany, I can't remember either which, but I'll probably find it. And basically she ended up getting like brutal beaten because she obviously was like white, and because of that she ended up getting punished, because that's what they, quite similar to Chris Donald, who was also a lad, was basically targeted by a group of Pakistani kids and was horribly and brutally murdered. And that's what you get from multicultural societies, where you get a bunch of people who are completely different from you end up doing horrific things to children. And as well, if you want to go in the link in the description with links to my other channels and Discord as well.